Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Taking Stock Live. I'm Kalila Reynolds, and we have another exciting episode for you. It's all about the Dolla Financial IPO, which opens on Friday, May 27. I have the CEO of Dolla Financial, Kadeen Mairs. He's going to be joining us. And of course, let me know where you're from. Drop your name in the chat and tell me where you're joining us from. Are you in Kingston, in Mandeville, Montego Bay, Westmoreland, Portmore? Anywhere in Jamaica, let me know. Anywhere outside of Jamaica, we always want to know where you are from as well. So let us know. Now, here's a little preview of what's coming up in the show, followed by what's hot in business. Dolla Financial Services is the latest company ready to go public through an initial public offer, IPO. The company is seeking to raise $500 million priced at $1 a share. The offer is set to open Friday, May 27. CEO of Dolla Financial Services, Kadeen Mairs, will join me. And the analysts weigh in on the latest market developments. We'll hear their thoughts on Dolla's IPO. And both Jamaica Producers Group and PanJam results are out. How did they do? We'll discuss. But first, here's What's Hot, brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart.
The Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association is lashing out against the Bank of Jamaica following its latest interest rate increase. The BOJ announced that it has increased its policy interest rate from 4.5% to 5% per annum. The BOJ has now raised interest rates 6 times in recent months as it tries to rein in inflation, which was neared 12% in April. The BOJ's inflation target is in the range of 4 to 6%. However, the JMEA argued that the increase puts Jamaica's economy at risk of a recession, with the price of basic food items set to go higher. It noted that the country is still grappling with supply chain and logistics issues caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and made worse by the Russia-Ukraine war. The JMEA said that rising prices coupled with high interest rates will add a greater level of uncertainty to the situation and will stifle economic growth. Registered medium-sized businesses can now access up to $6 million more in grant funding through the Development Bank of Jamaica's Innovation Grant Fund. The relaunched DBJ program allows medium-sized Jamaican businesses to access up to $20 million in financing for business ventures that are original and have scope for revenue and employment generation. Businesses from any industry can apply for the grant. However, applicants must have been registered and in business for at least revenues between $75 and $150 million. The application window for the grant opened on May 20 and will stay open until June 30. The board of SSL Venture Capital Jamaica has unanimously agreed to the takeover bid by Microfinancing Solutions. Several months after receiving the offer, the SSL VC board said that the offer for less than 10 cents per share is fair, given the recent state of the company. Among other reasons, the board pointed to the lack of operating portfolio companies and operating income, and the withdrawal of operating financial support by its majority shareholder, Stocks and Securities Limited, as reasons why the price is fair. SSLVC said that to satisfy company laws, which state that a takeover bid must offer to acquire all the shares in a company, MFS has advised that it intends to purchase 100% of the company. However, to keep SSLVC listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, MFS will only keep a 79.08% stake. The Heart NSCA Trust is warning Jamaicans to be on the lookout for the latest employment scam. The agency said it is aware of promotional material being circulated in social media, alleging that it is facilitating employment in the Cayman Islands. It warned that this claim is false and advised individuals to disregard the advertisement. The trust said it does not facilitate or guarantee overseas employment and will never conduct promotional activity of any kind making those claims. JetBlue Airlines has launched a hostile takeover bid for Spirit Airlines, bypassing the company's board and going directly to shareholders. In a letter sent to Spirit shareholders, JetBlue offered roughly $3.2 billion to vote down a potential merger with Frontier Airlines. Back in February, Spirit announced it had entered into a deal with Frontier to merge and form the US's fifth largest carrier. That deal is worth $2.9 billion. JetBlue had originally offered $33 per share or $3.6 billion to acquire Spirit, but that deal was unanimously rejected by Spirit's board. This prompted JetBlue to go directly to shareholders, offering 30 share in cash. Spirit shareholders are set to vote on June 10 on the offer from Frontier. Spirit's board has urged shareholders to reject JetBlue's offer. What's Hot was brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart.
This segment of Taking Stock is brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agency, insurance made easy, and
download today. Register using your existing NCB online banking login credentials. To open an account or get more info, contact our Wealth Hub today.
now time for us to get into the meat of the matter. I know what you are all here waiting for. Dollar, 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 dollar. Give me dollar, give me dollar, give me dollar, give me dollar. Cent, 5 cent, 10 cent, dollar. Let me see who is here. Sing it with me, guys. I wish you could sing it. You know, someday we need to have a live studio audience so y'all can sing along with me. Let me see where you're joining us from. Javon says St. Mary has joined the chat. Christopher joined us from early. He was waiting from 7:23. He's been stalking this particular broadcast. Jamor says Westmoreland is in the house. Westmoreland early and waiting. Kish is joining from London. Jen Ziva says, same here from Westmoreland. Westmoreland people always early. And then Roger Roberts joining from Kingston in Doheny Park. D. Duncan, Bronx representing bright and early. BX, you know, I have some history in that part of things. Went to school up there in the Bronx. Sandberry Mandeville in the house. Good evening to everyone. And Trisha says she cannot wait, and neither can I, because this one has been highly anticipated. I know you all want to know all about it. Raise your hand if you've read the prospectus. I have been seeing some very impressive reviews about this prospectus. I've been reading it, and let me not give my opinion because I'm not a licensed financial advisor. We will hear from them later on in the show. But if you have questions, let us know in the chat. At this point in time, let me introduce the CEO of Dolla Financial Services, Kadeen Mairs. Hello, Kadeen.
Hi, Kalila. How you doing?
I'm good, and welcome to Taking Stock.
Thanks for having me. I'm from Westmoreland as well, so we're always early.
Ah, yes, I saw. Well, I figured you were from that part of the country. Joined from. You were working in Lucy. I'm like,
Yeah, that's the
oh.
first location.
Oh, okay. That end. All right, cool. Well, it's so good to have you on and to hear about your journey with Dolla Financial. And that's where I want to start. Tell me about, the beginnings of this company.
Well, it's a long story, but just to condense it, my background is really in finance, banking particularly. I used to work with the credit union. I also used to work with the National Commercial Bank. At 24, I decided to leave my job as a supervisor at the bank or loans officer, and I decided to start my first microfinance company. I took a loan from the bank. At that time, interest rates were higher. Took a loan of $2 million. And, fast forward to now, we have a company valued $2.5 billion once we're successful on the IPO. So, that's where the journey is now. We are in Jamaica, we're in Guyana. We're looking at other opportunities. We have 8 locations island-wide. We have a solid management team. We have a solid board of directors. We have equity partners that are backing us, So, we have gone through the hard times. I know it's time for growth.
All right, so we have an overview of the IPO. So let's just set the stage here and let's run that.
Microfinancing company Dolla Financial Services is seeking to raise $500 million through a combined offer for sale and an initial public offer. This means the company will be creating new ordinary shares and selling sales from an existing shareholder. According to the prospectus, if the offer is successful, Dolla will apply to be listed on the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. The company is offering 500 million shares for sale, 212.5 million of those available to the public. The remaining 287.5 million are reserved for company applicants and key partners. All shares are going for $1 each, and the smallest quantity you can buy is 1,000. After the initial purchase of 1,000 shares, you'll have to buy them in increments of 100. So you can get 1,100 shares, not 1,050. That means you can participate in this offer for as little as 1,000 Jamaican dollars plus fees. That's less than $7 US. The offer is set to open on May 27, 2022 and is scheduled to close on June 10, 2022, but it could close early. Applications are being accepted through VM Wealth Management. Check the link in the description to apply.
All right, so that is the overview. I saw some people in the chat asking when it starts, when it will open. So that is Friday, May 27, coming right up. So you told us a little bit about your background, Kadeen. Tell me, the microfinancing industry has gotten a bad rap, right? There've been a lot of people calling or equating microfinance companies with loan sharks, and there's been a lot of negative attention on the industry. Tell me what your strategy is there at Dolla Financial.
Well, I mean, I would have to defend the industry first and foremost. I mean, access to credit is the backbone of any economy. And the truth is, if you get denied at the bank, that means that you're high risk. If you're high risk and, there's going to be some form of risk-based pricing, the interest rate that you're going to borrow at is going to be higher than the bank if you go elsewhere. So at the end of the day, it's not really about the rate that you borrow at, it's what you're doing with the money. We practice prudent lending, which means that we're very transparent. I mean, the truth is, if you come to us and you're borrowing for the wrong reason, we're not going to lend you the money, that can be seen in, our delinquency, relatively low delinquency rate because of how prudent we are with the lending. So it's all risk-based pricing. Interest rates will be higher than the bank, and there are persons who are unbankable. And the truth is, Kalila, just to put it in context, right? If we have a customer who is a fisherman and he wants $10,000 to borrow, and we even charge him 3% a month, that's $300. We charge him 2%, that's $200. He wants $10,000 because the engine of his boat is down and he needs to go out to make $60,000 for the day. For him to pay an interest rate of $200 or $300 and $10,000 to fix his engine, that is minimal. So, I mean, rates, you always have to decide why you're borrowing and if it's a beneficial borrow.
So what do your rates vary between?
So as I said, it's risk-based pricing. So it can be as low as 15% per annum, and it can go as high as 40% per annum, depending on how risky the loan is. The truth is, there are persons that will come to us with a bad credit history, but this person has a good character, and they should still be a part of financial inclusion. And not because you pull the credit score doesn't mean that they shouldn't get any. And they have a bad credit, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't get access to financing to, try a new business, for example. So it's just based on the risk, and it can vary.
I was surprised to see the range of products that you all offer, because I had this idea about what a microfinancing company is, and you lend to a lot of small lenders who sometimes need day-to-day support, micro businesses, but it's a lot more than that. So we have a video that explains what the company does.
Kadeen Mairs, CEO of Dolla Financial Services. Dolla was formed to open doors. Our mission is to make getting the money you need a quick and easy process. When life comes at you fast, you can count on us in your time of need. We provide financial services for those with a vision and those on a mission. No matter if it's a business loan or personal loan, small or medium, once you want to grow, we lend. Over the past 7 years, Dolla has played a vital role in the microfinance market, disbursing more than $3 billion in loans to more than 5,000 Jamaicans. We will continue to play our part in the growth and development of Jamaica and the Caribbean by providing financing support to all entrepreneurs. Whether it's a short-term loan until your next payday or a long-term business loan, visit us at Dolla Financial Services. Remember, we lend.
So you're primarily a lender with a multitude of lending products. And like I said, I was surprised to see the different types of products that you have. Can you give us a breakthrough? What are your most profitable products right now?
I'd say that all the products are profitable, but I mean, I can tell you that from the micro level, we have microfunder. We have medium-sized loans that can vary from personal or medium-sized business loans. And we also have a special product called the Dollar Elite, which is basically, asset-backed loans, which account for, I think, about 40% of our loan portfolio. So yeah, those are the different products. We also have products like the One and Ready, which is, for our local taxi operators. We have MediPay, that's for persons. You see, I have in braces. If I don't have the money to, get in my braces, that'll give me a loan and I get my braces, anything cosmetic, we can finance it just the same way. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about managing your cash flow, setting your priorities. If you can borrow to, fix a short-term problem or make yourself happier, then why not?
Yeah, I see you have dollar value personal, SME grow. So you do target a lot of SMEs, but that Dollar Elite is almost half of your portfolio, 46%. Right. So a lot of people are taking that. These are the targeted for entrepreneurs and high net worth clients, and you use your fixed assets to bankroll that. Correct. All right, so a lot to get through, and I see a lot of comments already starting to come in as well. You mentioned earlier about your delinquency rate. What's that right now?
Currently, I think it's I know based on the prospectus, I think it's about between 5 or 6%. You can correct me, but it's around that. It's single digit.
Not bad.
During the pandemic, we had a spike which put us at about 12-13%. And we had to, take a step back to really understand COVID, get our book more diversified and restructure. And, it taught us a lot. So, we were able to, recover a bit from that and bring back the delinquency from 12% in 2020 back down to single digit.
Right. And it's not bad, especially given the industry you are in, as you said in the beginning, can be a high risk industry, lending to some people and businesses that traditional banks might not want to take on as clients, yet your delinquency rate is particularly low. All right, so let's look at where you are now. Started with just the one branch. How many do you have now?
So we have 8 locations, from Savlamar to Lucy to Hanover to St. Elizabeth to Junction in St. Elizabeth. We're in Mandeville, we're in Discovery Bay, and we're also in Kingston, and we're in Georgetown, Guyana.
Tell me about that move to Georgetown, because I remember seeing that in the news, expanding to Guyana. Why Guyana?
One of our strengths at Dolla Financial is that we're a group of entrepreneurs. We understand business, we take risks, we spend time to understand new territories. We actually spent a lot of time in different Caribbean countries, including Haiti, spent a lot of time in Haiti understanding the market to decide if it was a good country to enter into, if it was stable enough. Guyana was one of such countries, spent a lot of time down there. If you see in the prospectus, we were incorporated from 2018. We've been visiting from before then. We saw the growth potential, spending time down there, understanding the culture. If the culture mix is, similar to ours, if we see eye to eye, if we could operate in the space, what regulations were like. We wanted to open earlier. COVID kind of postponed that. Summer of last year, we spent more time down there. Finally got our location to be open in Georgetown. Now we grew our loan book over a 6-month period to close to $100 million. I think that's in the prospectus with the Guyana financial statements. We grew that to about 100 million Guyanese. And we have a full team down there. We have a country manager, we have our underwriting team, we have our, sales team. So, Guyana for us now is like home. We were welcomed, and, the regulators were very receptive based on how we approached, operating within the country.
I see that part of the proceeds of this IPO are intended to be used to expand across the Caribbean. Which countries are you targeting next?
Well, as you know, it's always about visiting different territories. What I can say is that we've visited a lot of territories over the time. We've been to Panama, we've been to the Bahamas, we've been to different Caribbean countries, and there's a lot of prospects out there. It's not about just going into a country and opening up a location. You actually have to spend time to understand the market, because you don't want to go into a country and lend and can't collect. So what I can safely say is that we have eyes on some Caribbean countries now, and we will be seeing if we can make some applications for some money lending licenses.
And you can't say which ones yet?
No, I can't say that. No.
All right, let me start taking some questions from the viewers, because they are pouring in. Jano wants to know, what is the growth potential?
Well, the first quarter speaks for itself, right? If you look in the prospectus, last year, first quarter, I think we were doing like 17. First of all, Dolla for me is a growth stock. It's a stock that you hold. It's a stock that you grew with the company. I don't think it's a flipping stock personally. What I'll say is that if you compare last year's financials for the first quarter, it was at about 17 million profit before tax, or profit after tax, thereabout. And first quarter this year, we're at 60 million. So that is more than, as a 24, over 300% increase over a year for the first quarter. So in terms of growth potential, if we continue on that run rate, assuming that nothing had changed, we would have seen our net profit, significantly increase beyond 100 million to over 200 million on that run rate. So this IPO, getting $250 million that has no interest expense and adds to our balance sheet and strengthens our equity base, gives us patient capital that we can lend prudently, and will also push the current run rate a lot higher, and the potential will speak for itself in the results.
Follow-up question from Jano, who wants to know, what is your market share now, and what's your potential market share over the next 12 months?
How can I put this? Currently, we have about, I'd say, 5,000 clients. And I'd say that, Jamaica has almost 3 million people, 200,000 of which are like PAYE people with a 9 to 5 contributing. And the rest of people in the working class are unbanked. Or a lot of the persons don't even have a bank account. So, I'm not the statistics guy, but I can tell you that there are a lot of people out there that need access to credit, including those who are a part of the traditional banking, have access to traditional banking services. So if you ask me just off the top of my head, how much customers we can grow to, we have such a minimal stake in what the potential of the Jamaican market is. It's just a matter of how far we want to go. Do we want to go to 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 customers?
But it is a very competitive space as well.
You would want to think so, because there are a lot of microfinance companies out there. But I always say to people, there are more doctor offices than microfinance companies, and I see patients in there every day. So and people need access to credit more than that. You look in the bank, you see the lines. So statistically, I can't comment on that, but I can tell you that based on the demand that we have, if we get $250 million, that money can be unlent within 6 months.
Matthew wants to know, it says, can you give us some more details on your partnership with Derrimon? That was a $1 million loan, right?
Yeah. Correct. So, Derrimon is a listed company. The partners are the principals or operators, Derek Cotterell and Ian Kelly. These guys have, they're very similar to us in terms of ambition, as you can see, their expansions. They're the largest distributors of rice or of the sort. So they're in other Caribbean countries doing business. So I mean, at the end of the day, when the ambitions are alike, entrepreneurs will support each other. We had in the past, Derek was a part of our board of directors and such. They saw the potential to have an income. The interest rate on that loan, as stated in the prospectus, was about 11% on US dollar, which was very attractive for Derrimon. So, I mean, we see Derrimon as a growth partner. They also gave us the opportunity to unlend to their staff as well and help out their staff when they're in need. So, it's just entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs to grow. And I think that's the way that entrepreneurship should be in Jamaica.
Next question comes from Kidari, who wants to know, what is the status of the company in terms of getting the required license from BOJ to operate a microfinance business?
I mean, I can safely say that we were probably the first person to submit our application to the Bank of Jamaica. We are currently, in dialogue with the Bank of Jamaica just to finish the process in terms of acquiring a money lending license. But in terms of comfort, I just want to say that, as stated in the prospectus, we used to have a cambio, so we were regulated by BOJ. So we do have a relationship with BOJ. We understand how to operate in a regulatory framework. We have a strong corporate governance in place. We have our compliance team. So it was very easy for us to transition. It was just a matter of submitting documents for us, not much changes. The Money Lending Act seeks to, create some form of transparency, AML compliance, all of those manuals we had already, we had those manuals already just to be updated. So there wasn't much work for us to do in order to acquire the license. I mean, it's just a matter of time now. It's something new for us and the BOJ. So there's just a little bit of teething pain there, but I'm sure as soon as they figure it out, we would be one of the first through the gate.
So do you have any idea when that is expected?
I think the deadline is July 1st, or the end of June or the end of July. Don't quote me on that. And so I'm sure by then we'll get some word from the BOJ.
And this all relates to the new Microcredit Act, right?
Correct.
Is it Microcredit or Microfinancing Act? I'm trying to remember.
Microcredit Act.
Right. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So Barry, I think Barry's looking at a loan. Barry wants to know, what is the typical waiting time to access the loans?
Okay, so we have customers that can come in and get a loan same day.
Same day?
Yeah. However, depending on the type of loan, a loan might take longer than a day. Depending on the relationship with the customer, a loan can take a couple hours, right? So, that's a very broad question, because if the guy is a farmer and, his farm is in, Dunderhill in Junction, and the loan officer has to schedule some time from the Junction branch to, go and visit this farm, make an assessment, probably take 3 days, right? A repeat customer can come in and they'll get a loan within, 2 hours, depending on how long the RTGS takes to go out. A customer might come in and we have to ask for some more requirements based on the risk. So I'd say that a lot of the wait time on a loan is, based on how fast a customer can supply us the information with. But typically, if you ask us, we'll just safely say 3 to 5 working days, but we try to, get the loans out as quick as possible and prudently.
Seems there's a lot of interest in your loans. Kadeen, StrongLink wants to know what type of security is required to back the loans.
I'll take the opportunity to say that, we're probably one of the most flexible, lending companies out there. Typically you can bring your car, to get a loan from us. We've had cases in the past where we have used biological assets as collateral. Biological asset means that a farmer with some red pole cows, that are registered with RADA and basically have stamps on them. We know the value on that animal, and we were willing to give that farmer access to credit by using his animals. So, our underwriting department can get very creative, very flexible. We understand risk, we understand entrepreneurship, and that's definitely our strength.
Okay, I'm glad you clarified biological assets, because I was like, I'll put up my body as my collateral. A body expensive.
Yeah, I don't think we have enough money to
Speaking of which, all natural, by the way. Nicholas wants to know, for ladies taking out Medipay for cosmetic purposes, namely body enhancements, that's why I had to, specify. What do you use as collateral, and what happens if they are unable to service their loan? How do you recoup?
I think Nicholas is trying to make trouble. So Nicholas, good one. But I'm not gonna. I won't answer that one, Nicholas.
You can't take it back. I mean, it's in the body.
but on a serious note, if somebody does want to borrow, most times persons will show some form or other collateral, depending on the size of loan. For a $500,000 loan, you can get that unsecured.
Okay, unsecured. Lushant has a question about the business, and this is a serious question because we have a lot of things going on in the economy right now. We have high inflation, talks of a US recession. We're still recovering from the pandemic, high interest rates, and that's another thing that directly affects your business. So Lushant wants to know, what are the variables that can affect the company other than those increases? But we really should talk about those increases first. So before I come to Lushant's question, talk to me about, what's going on in the economic environment now, the things that I just listed, and how that would affect or is likely to affect your business.
All right, so I guess we'll start with interest rates and BOJ increasing the interest rates. And the first question is, how will that affect us? The truth of the matter is that we operate in a different space from a commercial bank. When interest rates go up and it affects the commercial bank, it doesn't necessarily affect us. And the reason for that is that our capital, we derive that capital from the capital markets. We access that through debt or through equity. So when we go out into the market to raise money, we raise directly from individuals, high net worth individuals, or institutions who are willing to lend at a rate of return that they want, and not necessarily based on what BOJ has pegged. In terms of how it affects our interest rates are already priced in certain risks, including the risk of the risk of increasing interest rates. So not because the Bank of Jamaica rates go up, that doesn't mean that our rates will go up as well. Actually, it might be more beneficial to us when the rates go up, because then a lot of persons might not see the bank as being ideal. I might say, dollar interest rate is the same. They're easier to deal with than the bank. So why do I go there if they're increasing their interest rates? By the way, we have a good relationship.
So you issue mostly fixed rate loans, or you do variable?
Correct. Well, that's the good thing with us. It's fixed. So there's no uncertainty in terms of what our rate's going to be if something changes, so because that's why we're pricing everything in the cost already. So it's a very straight up, with a variable price, you can get a car loan at 8%, then BOJ changes the rate, and your monthly payments change at the bank. With us, your rates won't change.
And at this point, let me just let the audience know that we are going to go longer than usual for this episode, because clearly there are a lot of questions and there's a lot of interest in this IPO. So I'm not limiting it to just the usual 1 hour. We're definitely going to go longer. So coming back to the question from Lushant now, who wants to know what other variables can affect the company other than the increase in inflation, recession, pandemic, and so on.
I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a risk taker. I look at risk outside of this, including a meteorite hitting the earth, right? There's always going to be some form of risk. My concern is what will affect my customers or my clients and put them in a position where they are financially unstable. Because once my customers are unhappy or unstable in any way, it makes the business unstable as well. So inflation, recession, COVID, pandemic, monkeypox, all of these things does affect, you know, our customers and does affect us, you know, because if a customer cannot purchase goods to resell based on the new price of these goods based on inflation, then it will affect their ability to repay their loans. So I mean, we do disclose this in the prospectus that these are possible risks in the business, but that's what business is, taking a risk.
All right. Next question comes from Kimarley, who wants to know what's the size of the debt write-off.
Okay. I'll assume, you know, they want to know, you know, what portion of our loan portfolio is bad debt. So I think for the first quarter, our loan book was closer to $1 billion, or I think 900 million, somewhere there about. So about 5% of that, you know, was estimated for our credit loss.
Or it might have been, because in the prospectus, you did say that a portion of the proceeds would be used to pay down debt. I'm not sure if that's what he's referring to.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure.
All right. Javon wants to know, will Dolla lend money to purchase stocks for investing in general? And what's the interest rate for such a loan? I saw a similar question coming from somebody else earlier as well, saying, here it was. Mia says, is it true that you can get a Dolla loan to buy Dolla shares?
I think Maya should just go on our website and just apply for the loan and tell us that, you know, the purpose of the loan is to buy Dolla shares. You know, we'll give a loan for somebody who wants to purchase the shares. Purchase not only our shares, whatever you want to purchase. If you want to make an investment, that but as I always say, make sure that it's prudent lending. Make sure that your expected return is greater than the cost of capital. And there are just certain fundamentals when you're borrowing and responsible borrowing. And, you know, each time somebody asks about the interest rate, our interest rate is based on risk. We have to do an assessment. We can give you a range, but we have to get specific with the risk that we're taking. I don't know if you're an entrepreneur, if you have a 9-to-5, if you have collateral, and all of that does affect the pricing of a loan.
So, but in general, you do offer loans to purchase shares in companies, but you have to qualify for the loan. That's what you're saying.
For sure.
Okay. All right. So Matthew Preston wants to know, what percentage of your loans are to micro businesses?
I don't have the prospectus next to me, but I think, you know, outside of the asset-backed loans for the micro lender, the personal loans was a larger portion below that. So I'd say micro loans would have been like the third largest segment of our loan portfolio. In terms of the exact percentage, I'd just have to pull that up in the prospectus.
The third largest, you said?
I think so, yeah.
After what and what?
After my Dollar Elite and personal loans, Dollar Value, personal, right?
All right. Next question comes from Orain, who says, even though your delinquency loans are single digit, how do you go about collecting from delinquent customers? Do you hire private collections companies to do this?
All right. So our collection method is a lot different from, you know, traditional lenders. Where we take a more proactive approach than a reactive approach. What that means is that we don't wait until a loan goes bad to call a customer and pressure a customer. If a customer is late on their loan and we pick up on a trend 3-4 days, we'll reach out to that customer and we'll say, you know, hey Michael, how you doing? We realize that you're having a challenge, you know, repaying your loan. You want to, you know, give us an update on what's going on. He probably at that time can say, you know, he had to fix the roof of his business, and based on that, he had a delay. Once we understand the challenges that the customers are having, then we can help them to fix that problem before a loan goes into delinquency. So in terms of the question, in terms of, you know, putting loans to debt collectors and being like taking that more aggressive approach, it's not our stance.
All right. Craig wants to know, well, you already said you don't have the prospectus in front of you, so I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this. What do the disaggregated numbers for 2019 to 2020, or what are they, I guess he's asking, since the fiscal year was changed, the numbers would be inflated and not necessarily be a true picture?
Well, I mean, I think in the prospectus, we did an analysis for 18 months and we also did a 12-month analysis. So both were there in the prospectus. so that it doesn't give any form of confusion. So I do know that both were in there.
Okay, so check the prospectus, Craig. The link is in the description box. Lavar is asking, if I borrow a loan today, does that make me a customer? And also, would that make me qualified for the reserve customer pool? Good question.
I think it's too late. That list was already submitted to the brokers, Levar. However, if we had key, partners throughout, the business, whether it's suppliers or customers that, showed interest before, we would have put them on a list. So yes, but they would have had to show interest prior
To you even issuing the prospectus.
Right.
Okay. All right. Next question comes from David, who says, what do you mean about only paying back 250 million in repaying loans excluding GK?
Okay, so to explain what that means now, we're raising $500 million. Now, 250 of that is going to the business, 250 is going to selling shareholders. The selling shareholders would have been the ones who would have had debt in acquiring, the business and growing the business. So the selling shareholders will reserve 250 to repay their loans, not necessarily the loans of Dollar.
Okay. I hope that answers your question, David, because he always comes with a lot of questions. Next question comes from Craig. Again, Craig wants to know, why is First Rock selling part of their stake?
So, I mean, when you're doing an IPO, you have to give 20% of the business minimum to the market, which means that, when First Rock is at 75, I'm at 25, First Rock will have to be diluted by 20%. So they will lose 20% of their 75%, and I will lose 20% of my 25%, bringing me down to, I think 20%. I'm bringing them down to 60. And what that leaves is 20% for the public. So that's just the rule of the stock market. We have to sell some of the shares so that we can have new shareholders.
Right, exactly. All right, so coming back to a question that we asked earlier, that I think this person is asking it in a smoother way. So Devon's Beekeeping wants to know, what portion of the 250 million from the IPO will go towards debt repayment?
Debt repayment for the company, none. All that 250 will be going towards expansion.
I'm looking back at let me bring it up, because I'm pretty sure I saw debt repayment in the prospectus as one of the proceeds. So, oh no, okay. Actually, it says reduce debt by the selling
Shareholder, correct.
and fund our regional expansion. So,
Right.
all right. So just explain the difference then.
Okay, so you have the company, you have the shareholders. The shareholders have debt, so they want to take some money for themselves to go pay off their personal debt that they might have incurred in terms of helping the business to grow. Then the other 250 will be going directly to the company as equity in the company. None of that 250 will be going towards paying any debt that Dollar currently has, because we have enough equity base in the company that we can just use the current capital to grow the loan portfolio versus using it to, say, clear a GK debt.
Right. So just to explain as well, that of the 500 million, Dollar is selling 250 million, and then you have some shareholders who are selling some of their personal shares as well. So the personal shares that are being sold by the selling shareholders via the IPO, that money will go to them to do whatever they want to do with it, and they've said that they're going to use it to eliminate some of their debt, and some of this debt was incurred in helping to build up Dollar.
Correct.
All right, so important question. I don't know how I forgot this one in the prelims. Owen wants to know, what's the dividend payout?
I think in the prospectus, we had said that, of course, at the discretion of the board of directors, the dividend payout, I think we set it at 50%. So if we make 300 million this year, just hypothetically, we'll pay out 150 million to our shareholders.
And KW is asking a follow-up question based on that discussion we just had about the debt. He or she wants to know, why didn't the selling shareholders just convert their debt into equity?
Well, the truth is, if you look in the prospectus, you'll see that the selling shareholders for the year end 2021 had converted, and don't quote me on this, but I think it's close to $180 million of debt that was owed to Dollar to equity. So you're talking about shareholders that are fully vested.
All right, so some of the questions that are coming in now we have answered before. So let me just encourage you, if you are just joining us, as soon as the show is over, you can just rewind to the beginning and catch all the answers to those early questions that you may have missed. I'm going to take this last question coming from Marcus, who wants to know, is Dollar jumping into the hot real estate market?
No. So Dollar's role is to support different industries. So, if you look at our the segments or industries that we lend to, construction is one. So we're not going into constructions. We support a contractor. We support an electrician. We are money lenders. We don't enter into other spaces. So I hope that, shows where our vision is and our direction for the company.
I want to thank you so much for joining us, Kadeen. A lot of people clearly have a lot of interest in this. Tell us how we may apply for the Dolla Financial IPO.
Okay, so you can visit any of your brokers to purchase into the IPO. Our selling agents currently, our main broker is VM Wealth. Our selling agents are Mayberry and Barita, and recently JMB as well. So, whoever your broker is, just reach out to your broker, let them know how many units you want to purchase. The size of the pool is 500 million, and the opening date is on Friday. And, we just want every Jamaican to get an opportunity to be a part of this growth company and to just, enjoy the success of Dollar.
Thank you once again, Kadeen, and all the best with this offer. I wish you much success.
Thank you. You can invite me after the close.
After the what? After the close?
After the close of the IPO.
Oh yes, we have to do a follow up another time in a few months. I definitely want to hear where you are and when you start opening those new branches across Jamaica and the Caribbean. And who knows, the world, right?
Yeah.
The world is your oyster. Thanks again, Kadeen Mairs, CEO of Dolla Financial. Up next, it's your market recap, and then we get to hear what the analysts think about this IPO.
This segment of Taking Stock was brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agency. Insurance made easy and
Download today. Register using your existing NCB online banking login credentials. To open an account or get more info, contact our Wealth Hub today.
time now for your market recap brought to you by Scotia Elevate.
Scotia Elevate is a new life insurance plan from Scotia Insurance for the big thinkers and go-getters. Stay protected with up to $12 million in life coverage and up to $6 million in accidental death and dismemberment. Plus, enjoy customized investments to help build your net worth. Learn more at jm.scotiabank.com.
The JC Combined Index declined last week, falling by nearly 11,000 points or nearly 3%. 119 stocks traded across the main and junior markets for the week ending Friday, May 20, 2022. 45 advanced, 68 declined, and 6 stayed the same. 125 million shares changed hands on the Jamaican dollar market, valued at $1.3 billion. Diamond was the most traded stock, taking up 10% of market volume, with people buying and selling nearly 13 million shares in the company. The stock opened this week at $3.14. JFP traded the second highest volume. People bought and sold 12 million shares in the company. The stock's price lost 7 cents to open the new week at $1.56. And Wigton Wind Farm ordinary shares rounded out the most traded, taking up nearly 6% of market volume, with 7 million shares trading. The stock's price fell by 1 cent to open this week at 61 cents. Now let's see who had the biggest gains for the week. ISP Finance Services jumped 32% to open the new week at $29.50. Stationery and office supplies is up nearly 23% to open this new week at $12.98. And the JMMB Group 5.75% FRUSD CR preferences shares jumped nearly 16% to open the new week at $2.32. On the losing side now, Productive Business Solutions USD was last week's biggest loser, down nearly 17% to open Monday at 98 cents US. Caribbean Producers Jamaica was the second biggest loser, down 16% to close last week at $14.58. And CAC 2000 was down 15% to close last week at $6.32. This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, is brought to you by Proven Wealth and Ideal Securities Brokers Limited.
Welcome back. It's time now for the analyst, and we are joined by Wealth Manager at Ideal Securities Brokers, Oric Angus, and Assistant Manager of Private Equity at Proven Management, Julian Morrison. Welcome, Oric. Welcome, Julian.
Hi,
Hey,
Kalila. Good
Kalila.
evening.
I'm glad to see that your technical issues were resolved, Oric, able to figure
Yeah, I
that
still
out.
having a few, but I think I'll be able to manage.
All right, good. Middle initial getting this week, Oric O. Angus. Expensive man.
It's a new habit, you know. It's a habit.
All right, we have to start with the hot topic this week, which is, of course, the Dolla Financial IPO, which opens on Friday, May 27. I definitely want to hear your perspectives on it. Oric, let's start with you.
Yeah, I actually like Dollar. I think Kadeen Mairs himself has diligently grew the company since 2014, as you can see in the performance, especially the Q1 performance. As he said, that speaks for itself. The company has a very solid management team, as he mentioned, and I think they are very positioned in a very key growth market such as Guyana. Um, in regards to the flexibility of the products that they offer is a wide variety of products. You don't find many microfinance companies out there that is expanding regionally. Most of them are pretty much footprints are local based. So I think it's definitely refreshing to see a microfinance company that is looking for opportunities to rapidly expand across the region. What I like was that the fact that their non-performing loans fell from about 12% down to about 5% single digits. That's really impressive. Um, they have a strong corporate governance, as Kadeen say. I think a lot of people do like the IPO. I personally love what I'm seeing so far, and I think they have tremendous growth opportunity, seeing that it's a young company with significant growth potential. As you can see, the market reacted to that today because today was the first it has opened since the posting of the prospectus on the Jamaica Stock Exchange website. You'll see that heavy selling on the indexes. A lot of people or investors are positioning themselves to apply into the IPO to see if they can get a piece of the cake. Truth is,
So
I
that
think
answers the question coming from a couple of our viewers. One
yeah,
person was asking what caused the market sell-off today. So
yeah,
you're
it's
speculating that.
definitely you tend to see that whenever an IPO such as Dollar comes out very attractive, people tend to move some of their funds, whether they're capitalizing on their gains or just sucking up some of their losses to hopefully gain that back into the IPO after initial listing. Like Kadeen said, I think it's a long-term growth stock. Obviously, it will be there will be some short-term upside within few days after listing. I'm thinking more like a spiritual kind of performance or even better. So
Mm.
let's see.
Well, Paul is saying that based on his application number, this IPO is already oversubscribed. So Paul
Based on
already put it
the
in,
calls
get the
that I've
number.
received today, I'll say the same. I've never gotten so many calls since for a junior market IPO since per 3 this year. So I can tell that it's highly anticipated.
Mm. All right. So, what are you observing on your end, Julian?
So there's a lot of demand. I think that the company definitely has some room to grow. It's a young company in the grand scheme of things. There are some challenges though in terms of the competitive dynamics because there is Chris and Charles, there is Access Financial, ISP, WorldNet, Lasco Financial Services, and even some of the banks, the larger institutions, they have SME units. So it's really a matter of how the company can continue to differentiate itself at the product level and also in terms of its messaging to create somewhat of a core following so that people will choose the company not just for the best rate but also establish some kind of differentiation because of principles, maybe their lending principles, maybe it is the values of the company because people choose companies for different reasons. So if the business can continue to create value in that area, then it could be a strategic advantage. I think investors can definitely see um, the chance of participating in a company that has a future. The leader is young, he's very aggressive, he has experience, he's been with the company a long time, which are all good things that are creditable. But at the same time, it's still a young business, and we have to talk about risk. When you look at the equity base, the company took a battering over the last couple of years because the equity base has been diminishing. And when you also look at the cash levels were somewhat concerning, but they got an injection of capital fairly recently from some strategic partners, and those strategic partnerships can help the company going forward. So we have to talk about risk and reward. In terms of the offer, I think it's attractively structured. I think investors can definitely anticipate. I don't want to talk it up too much because Eric said quite a bit, but I just think
But
that
we want to hear your opinion too, because you may not have the same opinion.
so I definitely think that investors can see attractive returns in the short term based on the structure of the deal. In terms of the pricing, we know local investors are very attracted to deals that are favorable in terms of the nominal value, a dollar. It gives a signal of affordability. So people will definitely move towards it. And again, it's a good story. The company has a future. It's just a matter of looking at risk and reward. Um, so yeah, it might pan out better long term because even though there might be um, an immediate incentive to invest, the company's best days might be ahead of it if they're able to tap into those things that I mentioned before, the strategic partnerships, consolidating their loan portfolio and improving portfolio quality even further. Their product mix is good. They have a lot of secured facilities that they have on their book, so that's also very good. So, in other words, I'm thinking that it's a child that used to, be an okay student and they get into a place where they're doing good. And I think that they can do much better with certain adjustments. So that's my overall take on the company.
Interesting. All right. Mia says it's propaganda that the market sell-off was not caused by the dollar IPO.
Mhm.
And then
It,
Paul says, facts, my broker agent was under a lot of stress today, had me on hold for 40 minutes dealing with other applications. You know, you can apply online, right? Through VMBS Wealth IPO Edge, I think what it's called. And the link again is in the description below. But you would still need to transfer the funds from whichever account you have it in over to VMBS, which also you can do online. Today's Tuesday. You have until Friday morning before this opens. So you
Mhm.
have a couple of days to play with. And it is a first come, first serve IPO. So all applications will be treated as having been received on Friday morning at 9 a.m. So you have a few days to play with that still. All right. So take our poll question. Let me know in the comments as well what you think about the Dollar Financial IPO, viewers. How interested are you in this IPO? Very interested? Still on the fence? Not for you or other? You can also leave a comment and let us know what your thoughts are on that. And you can go to the community tab of my YouTube channel to take that poll, or if you are using a mobile device, it will come up on your feed eventually. Also, remember to like the video. I forgot to tell you guys earlier to like the video. We have a couple other things to talk about this week because Dollar isn't the only thing that is out, isn't the only news out there this week. Jamaica Producers Group has released their unaudited group results. And Oric, you have been combing through those. Any excitement with JP?
Yeah, let's talk about JP, dollar for dollar. Right, we can deal with that. Let me share my screen now. Share screen. Here we go. All right, we're good to go.
Yes.
Let me zoom this in
Yes, please.
before you attack me. All right, so let's talk about JP. Um, so these are summary information from the first quarter result that I put together. Um, JP is a conglomerate, as we all know. It's associated with a lot of different aspects of its business. These are some key highlights from the income statement. The company delivered $6.9 billion for the April 2022 quarter. That is up 26% over the year when you compare it to April 2021 last year. Gross profit is also up 25%. Net profit is up 42%. Earnings per share is up 58% approximately. So all these are double-digit growth, significant growth. Let's see where these revenues are coming from. These are the key revenue segments for JP. We have JP Food and Drinks, which came in at about 4.1. These are actually billions. Let's add the zeros there. These are you'll get it. These are actually $1 billion. So JP Food and Drinks, this business, it is engaged in agriculture, food and distribution, the retail and food drink segments of their business. It largely includes subsidiaries like JP Tropical Group, Tortuga Rum Cake, JP Snacks Caribbean, and JP Farms. So all those subsidiaries make up this segment of the revenue. When you look at JP, we have the next segment called JP Logistics and Infrastructure. That comprises of logistics and transportation segments of their business, port operations, and related industries, which include Jamaica Shipping Services Limited, Kingston Wharves, which is a publicly listed company, SAJE Logistic Infrastructure, which the company own predominantly and offload some of their stake in around 2020. So as you can see, and the corporate services, which include interest and investment income. So as you can see, most of the revenues come from JP Foods and Drinks, and overall, that is what compiles the $6.9 billion in revenue on this side. So in regards to total comprehensive income, that was up 38.8%, and profit attributable to shareholders came in at around 68.4%. When you look at the key profit margins, gross profit margins was up 28%, operating profit margins was up 12.3%, and net profit margins was up 11.7%. So all these are solid numbers from JP profit and loss statement. When we come down to their balance sheet, these are some of the key highlights. As you can see, cash and short-term investments are up 22%. Total assets, which is about right here, is up 9.6%. So the company has fundamentally strong balance sheet. The company has also done quite a few acquisitions, which has boosted the total assets on their balance sheet. So in earlier this year, around January 2022, the company acquired 100% of the shareholdings in Miami Freight and Shipping Company. This is a Florida-based company that is engaged in freight handling, logistics, and shipping primarily between North America and the Caribbean. So the company now owns 100% of that company. Um, they bought Geest Line Limited, 50% of that company in April 2021. This is based in the UK. They operate a shipping line which connect Europe and the Caribbean. They also did another acquisition in September 2021, where the group acquired 50% shareholdings in Co Beverage Lab, which is a producer of fruit and vegetable juices in Barcelona, Spain. And then the last acquisition for 2021 was in October 2016, where the group acquired another 50% of Frontiera Limited, Group of Frontiera Limited, which is a company that they acquired assets. GF, sorry, the company acquired. This is a company that's associated with ice and bottled water product and distributor in the Dominican Republic. So as we can see, JP has been in acquisition mode in an effort to diversify their revenue streams, build out their asset base, and you can see it reflecting in the results so far based on Q1 results. When we go over to the key ratios, we're looking at liquidity ratios, and is this is also mirroring the healthiness of the company's balance sheet fundamentally. The quick ratio, which determines how the company can cover their short-term expenses, is up 3.1 times. The quick ratio is up 2.87 times, and the debt margins are relatively stable over the year when you compare it for the first quarter of 2021. In regards to their cash flow statement, even though it's not there, JP cash flow continues to richly generate richly towards its strategy. Management has been using the cash to diversify their business mainly through acquisitions, as we can see, repaying their outstanding debts and reinvesting into the business. So all this is what JP has been doing over the last year. A lot of activity, a lot more, well, quite a few more acquisitions to come based on the cash on the books. In regards to the valuation metrics of the stock closed last at $21.92, down from a 52-week high of $25. It's down year to date at 0.88%, and a fair market value based on our estimation at ID is at around $26.43, which give us an implied upside of $20 and 20.5% roughly, with an expected dividend yield of 0.87%. Our recommendation is a buy, and it's mostly suited for a moderate risk investor. So overall, that's my 2 cents on JP's performance. I think this is a good company that provides good diversification for investors.
So you gave us more than 2 cents there, Oric. Thank you for that analysis.
Thanks. You're welcome.
I didn't even notice. I don't know. I must have been sleeping that they did so many acquisitions last year, between last year and this year. So yeah, looked like we lost Oric, but just in time. I mean, at least we got his take on
Oh boy,
on
Eric is down
JP.
bad with the technology today.
Yeah, but he lasted just in time. So Julian, before we continue, let me ask you to just sit a little bit more to the center of your screen.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, cool. So another company that has just posted results is PanJam. Their Q1 results 2022 are out. What is it showing us?
Sorry about
All right,
that.
I'm sharing my
Some
screen.
issues there.
Can you see my screen?
It's coming up. Yes.
All right. Okay, so I'll just give a brief rundown of what PanJam holds again for all the new viewers and for persons who might not remember what PanJam holds. So PanJam is essentially a B2B business, meaning that it does business mostly with other business entities, because there are two kinds of businesses, B2C and B2B, business to consumer and business to business. So PanJam is a B2B type business. So in their investment portfolio,
For background, it is a strategic investment company, and in their portfolio, they hold a mix of real estate, private equity, and they hold some public equity assets as well as a book of securities that they trade for the purposes of getting gains. So they take tactical positions in securities like stocks and bonds to get gains. So I want to talk about some of their real estate assets. So they own the PanJam building in New Kingston. They own the CIBC First Caribbean building. They own Rock Hotel and Residences downtown. All of these fall under their real estate portfolio, as well as Scotia Building downtown. And they also have a partnership with Courtyard Marriott in New Kingston. That's the one near Emancipation Park. So let's transition to their public equity holdings. They own above more than 30% of Sagicor Group Jamaica. They own about 3% of JMB Group. And they are a substantial shareholder in Choca Caribbean Adventures. It's about 20% the last time we looked. And they are an investor in ITEL BPO. As you know, the BPO sector is one of the major growth sectors for the Jamaican economy. And being a strategic investor in this segment, especially in one of the larger and faster growing entities, is a major tailwind for the company. Now, they also invest in Newcastle Company. This company is not listed. Newcastle is also the operator of Walkerswood and Busher Brown sauce brands, and they own Williams offices, which trades as Regis. And that is a company that allows people to work remotely. Now, in terms of their holdings, they own most of their investment portfolio is built up of investments in associated companies. So as a strategic investment company, they earn mostly from their investments in other entities. Then that is followed by their financial securities and then their investment properties. And this would be chiefly comprised of, and when I said this, I'm talking about their investments in associates. That would be chiefly comprised of Sagicor Group Jamaica. So the performance of Sagicor Group Jamaica materially impacts their performance in terms of profitability and so on. Now, that's a synopsis of what the company is in terms of its performance in recent years, in terms of its
Zoom in some more for me, please.
Okay. In terms of its growth in operating income, the company has seen some volatility largely because of the movement in the financial markets in response to many of the shocks that happened recently, specifically the COVID-19 pandemic and the sell-off and the associated recovery following that. So if we see the difference between the growth in 2020 versus the growth in 2021,
right. Well, those 2 years are expected, but what's happening there in the 3 months for 2022?
Well, for the 3 months of 2022, in terms of the operating performance growth, overall it was flat. The real estate income segment was also relatively flat. What gave the 39% decline was mainly because of an increase in operating expenses. So operating expenses went up about 30%, which basically created an issue because their income streams were relatively flat. So if you have flat income streams and you have operating expenses going up 30%, then it's going to eat into your operating income on a net basis. So that was the reason for that decline.
But why is their operating expense going up? What's going on? What are they spending on?
Well, a part of it is because of inflationary pressures and also increased staff costs, right? So inflation is starting to affect the company in that regard. But what's on a more positive note is the fact that the results of associated companies continues to improve. Because, of course, as we know, even though the economy is reaching a stage of transition in terms of inflation and all of those pressures, we are still gaining momentum in the post-pandemic phase. So there are many business lines that are still benefiting from tourism, increased levels of passengers coming into Jamaica. And just for some highlights, we saw where the January to April numbers for Montego Bay Airport actually tripled year over year. So that's to put the recovery into context. And that would benefit businesses such as Choca. It would benefit businesses such as Rock Hotel, which is actually coming further down the line. They developed Rock Hotel and it's supposed to open later in the summer. It's also going to benefit Newcastle, which appeals to the tourism market and so on. So those are businesses that will benefit directly from the recovery in tourism. And in terms of the long-term prospects now, their real estate portfolio is likely to benefit from inflation because, as we know, real estate assets tend to move at the pace of inflation, ceteris paribus, and they own prime real estate. So these assets are basically key infrastructure. You're talking about banks, you're talking about offices, things that basically drive economic activity. So that's an advantage for PanJam, especially in the medium to long term. And they have businesses that are large, well capitalized. As I mentioned, JMMB is a part of their holdings. ITEL BPO is a part of their holdings. Sagicor's performance was up 31.3% in terms of net profit after tax, and that will be beneficial to the company. And that was driven by their Sagicor Life division. So even though there are pressures at hand in terms of inflation, the company is still well positioned because of its diversification. Net profit in my forecast is likely to hit north of 7 billion, and that's mostly driven by their performance from the associates. So even though all of these headwinds are real and they're starting to take hold at some level, the earnings are cyclical. So we could start to see a major adjustment or improvement in the performance in the next quarter, given that it's the summer month, and that would further accelerate the recovery benefits from tourism, etc., etc. In terms of the stock itself, the stock is at $63.49. It's down 2.1% year to date. It's down 14.2% from the 52-week high. The PE is about 9 times.
We can barely see those, Julian. You gotta zoom. Yes,
right.
Much better.
Right. So we're seeing that the company has assets that are a part of the key infrastructure of the company, a major financial conglomerate, major infrastructure in terms of buildings, and these are income producing assets. And it shows that the company is well positioned to maintain its strategic advantage as an investor. And it's cheaply priced. It's at 9 times in terms of the PE. The price to book is 1.34. The return on equity is a bit low, but that will come up in coming quarters as the earnings improve significantly. Because as I mentioned before, the earnings of the company is cyclical. So it doesn't increase in a linear way. So in other words, a lot of the improvement in earnings or the growth will happen more in some quarters than others. So Q2 will likely see, based on the company's history, will likely see much larger growth than in Q1, for argument's sake. So a lot of the benefits from its portfolio are to come in coming quarters, and that's the basis of my outlook for the company. It's well priced, it's strategically managed, it has a very experienced management team, it has a fairly new CEO that has been with the company for a while, but she's young, she's dynamic, a lot of deals are being done, new acquisitions. They acquired a company called CX International Limited, and it's in the same BPO line of business, which is in line with their other BPO holdings through ITEL BPO. So based on its historical price to book multiple of 1.95 times and other variables, the company really should be closer to $91.70. But based on market conditions, the company is far from that in terms of the price. Many of the main market stocks have really been taking a battering, and they've been laggards pretty much because of several factors. We haven't gotten back to where we were before the pandemic in terms of market levels on the main market. And also, there are many investors who came in during the pandemic, but many of them have shifted over to the junior market stocks, which have attractive pricing in terms of the nominal price. Investors love to see the $2 stock and the $5 stock and the $10 stock. So when them see 63, they must say, yo, never hear about PanJam rating, I'm not pay $63 for that. But it's just a matter of perception, because if you were to convert $63.49 to US dollars, that would be 41 cents US for a company that holds key strategic assets in the country, and not just the country but the Caribbean, because some of the assets reach over into other Caribbean territories. PanJam is actually one of the first listed companies in Jamaica. It's been on the market since the 70s at least, and it has been one of the standout stocks in terms of growth. So pretty much you're paying 41 cents US dollars for a company like this. If you're so inclined to be a long-term investor, you could see some benefits down the line. Over the past 10 years, it has grown 479% according to the Bloomberg terminal. Right, let me zoom in a bit. So this figure here, that's 479% over the last 10 years. And annualized, that is a rate of return of 19.2% per year. And if we factor in dividends, that's 608%, right? Factoring in dividends, if you were to reinvest all the dividends you earn, and that would be an annualized return of 21.62% per year. And that is why we encourage investors to look long term, because last year, the company is actually down from last year's level. It has been taking a battering for some of the things, because of some of the things we mentioned before. But over a 10-year time horizon, the company has done much better. And we know that conditions are not fixed in the market. And we know that the market has a long bias, meaning that, in simple language, most people who come into the market are optimistic. They're coming to buy something. And because of that, these conditions are not likely to hold. There's going to be a day when the market becomes bullish again and things turn around, not just for the junior market, but for the main market, and PanJam is likely to be a beneficiary. So that's my summary of PanJam.
You know, I tell you, the world moves in cycles. What goes up comes down. What is down, can go up the next day.
Sure.
But you made a great point as well about the value when you look at it in US dollars being 40-something cents. Jamaican investors have become so accustomed to stocks less spoiled. You said it, not me. I was thinking it that I didn't want to say, the stocks being less than 100 Jamaican dollars. And when you think about it, we're at 150 something to 1 US now in terms of the exchange rate. So the vast majority of the stocks on the Jamaica Stock Exchange cost less than $1 per share.
Yeah.
And that's,
how much for a patty now, Kalila? Like $220 for a patty now?
Less than a patty.
A Pepsi is like $120, $130. Like
less than a Pepsi for most of the stocks listed. Yet if you see something selling at 150, you say, oh, that's expensive, I don't want it, it's too expensive.
Man, ball. Crazy. Just perspective.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Oric. Thanks, Julian. We're going to take a very quick break, come back with your final comments from the viewers and your poll results.
The Analysts was brought to you by Proven Wealth and Ideal Securities Brokers Limited.
Hey, money makers, you're not an official part of the family until you have your merch. Visit KalilaReynolds.com/store to order your t-shirt and your mask today. Let's get this money. Let's get this money. All right, so we have quite a few comments coming from you members of the public. So let me take some of those. And also remember to like the video. Hit the like button for me, guys. Please like and subscribe. You know the deal. So our poll results are in. This is the early poll because it remains open for the rest of the week. How interested are you in the Dolla Financial IPO? So far, 69% of you said very interested, ready to put in my order now. 19% said still deciding, 12% said not for me, and so far we don't have anyone selecting the other option. So take the poll. It's on the community tab of this YouTube channel, and you can also scroll and find it on your feed. So final comments from those of you who are watching. Rajay says, I admire your success, bro. This is going out to Kadeen. I admire your success, bro. Merely saying it's inspirational is an understatement. Wow, nice. All right. Gorilla Desk says, pounding my chest with excitement for this company. I will be seeking a heavy loan to purchase some Dolla shares. Let's get this money. Also reminding you, standard disclaimer, that nothing you have heard in this show today is financial advice. This is for educational purposes only. Need to just record that disclaimer and play it every show. Dai says, I feel so proud of him and his accomplishments. So young and promising. Congrats and all the best. I feel like a lot of people are feeling the same way, especially when you see him and he just looks so young, right? And how he represents himself, and coming to this point is a great accomplishment. Devroyd, been a minute since I heard from you, Devroyd. Very happy to see you on and in the comments. Devroyd says, Julian makes an excellent point in highlighting the competitive landscape, and that again is regarding Dolla. Paul says, so with this new rule that IPOs shouldn't close within minutes after opening, I wonder how low my allocation will be. Paul, let me just clarify that that rule is, well, it's not a rule just yet. It is a proposal. We don't know if the FSC will actually go through with that proposal. They had been soliciting responses and feedback on the proposal. So that would not affect this IPO. So we haven't heard anything about what they have decided to do regarding that set of proposals. Damsel says, this very interesting, very interested, it'll be my first IPO investment. Roswell also saying, I'm interested in the Dolla company as they will expand their footprint and already as a good business line item in terms of loans. How is that his name now? Yahawada says, using money to make money, can't lose, especially in these financially distressed times. People need loans. That is a good point. If indeed the world is heading towards a recession, that is going to be a major business area, and it already is. Malik says, I'm very interested in Dolla, but I'm having a challenge with obtaining an account number on my VM Wealth IPO Edge application. What am I doing wrong? I saw quite a few of you complaining about that on the application. Well, in the application process, I'd suggest that you reach out to VM in the morning, and ask them to walk you through those steps. Robert says, Dolla is not the only deal on the market. There are many gems at super discounted price. Don't let the noise of the crowd distract you. Great point, Robert. So you guys heard us talking earlier about the heavy sell-off, as a lot of investors are selling their shares in other companies so that they can free up some money to invest in Dolla. That has been driving prices on other stocks down, down, down. So there are lots of opportunities on the market this particular week. Dolla is not the only game going on right now. Marcus says, Dolla Financial needs to take a page out of JP's book in terms of diversifying into other industries. Well, just to say that Dolla is a lot younger than JP, a much, much younger company. So JP being a mature company has a lot of things, a lot of room for expansion in other areas. So they developed their core first and then diversified into other areas. But it's something to consider. Gregory says, can one of your experts explain why CPJ has plunged 50% in a few days? Bear in mind that the tourism sector has been doing great. Nothing has changed since February when it was $22 and now it is plunging. Well, one factor may be the great sell-off that we've been seeing this week since the end of last week when the Dolla prospectus came out. That may be a factor. Another factor may be the talk of a pending U.S. recession. Even though tourism has been on the road to recovery, think about what would happen if there is indeed a recession in the United States, which is our core market, our main source market for tourists. If the economy is really bad there, and people don't have it to spend to travel, because travel is considered by many a luxury, especially vacations, then that is going to impact our market. And so you might see an impact on tourism-related companies like a CPJ and like Dolphin Cove, which somebody else also pointed out. Yahawada pointed out Dolphin lost 50% of value today. And Kellyanne Course says, I was shocked when I saw it today, Dolphin Cove too. So that's what's going on in the market. Yahawada also asking if you know what the huge sell-off was about. We're talking about that early on in the show. Sweden wants to know, are we heading to a recession? Not Jamaica, So a recession is technically defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth. So Jamaica has been having positive economic growth. I don't remember exactly how many consecutive quarters, but we haven't had a quarter of negative economic growth in probably since maybe early 2021 or late 2020. I'm not quite sure, but we are not heading toward a recession immediately, not now. The concern is that the United States has recorded 1 quarter so far of negative economic growth. And if the subsequent quarter is also negative economic growth, then that means that they are in a recession. And you know the saying, America sneeze, Jamaica catch a cold. Hopefully it's not COVID this time. Monkeypox? Anyone? Oh my gosh, everything is going around. Like the world is just, all right. I think that's a good place to leave it. You want to sing the song with me again? Dolla, 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 cent by cent and cent, dollar. That's for all of you who voted in the poll and said that, yes, you are interested. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me yet another week. I appreciate your presence here, and we'll see you again next week. Tomorrow we have another throwback episode of Money Moves JA. Next week, we'll be back with all new episodes. Watch out for Biz Talk, our new limited series coming out very, very soon. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Let's get this money.
Let's get this money.